So this is the second part of the four-part series of the My IEM collection. This is for the less super budget, the small budget. I think it's around the 50, like from 30 to 150, so wider range than 30 and below. But I don't have a lot of IEMs here, if you can see. Although the variety of IEMs at this price range is one of the more variant ones, but due to this, IEMs at this price range are the easiest to sell, and I have to buy a lot of them to be up to date. So yeah, these are the IEMs that I have right now. Though I do have quite a few IEMs that I regret actually selling, like the Starfields or the IT00, which realistically would last quite a long time because they're actually a very good IEM. They're very good IEMs. So yeah. And also, being a broke college student, like university student, like Jason is also, we need to sell our things. We can't just buy everything and not sell them. So, I guess that's that. Let's get to the IEMs that I have right now. We do have quite a few of them. I use a lot of IEMs at this price range most of the time because they're at the price where I'm okay losing them, but a few of them are very decent and very good at what they do. Of course, when talking about IEMs being very good at what they do, let's start with the one of my favorite IEMs here, the Huzzy Sound Hard Mirror. It has been a constant staple since its release and since it landed into my radar. It is a very, very splendid IEM. It's amazing what it can do for its price. Its technical performance is just maybe, I think, below $180 or just $150. It's very difficult for me to find another IEM that can out technical performance the Huzzy Sound Hard Mirror. Its tonality is quite not very balanced. You do have that treble peak there. However, for me, favoring more technical IEMs, I really like the Huzzy Sound Hard Mirror. Even though I have more expensive IEMs like the Z1Rs or the Blessing 2s that will be in the next video at part 3, I would still use the Huzzy Sound quite a lot because they're very comfortable. They're easy to wear, and you can just plug it to phone, and yeah, very good IEM. And also the next IEM right here, the Tin T2s, the original Tin T2s, not the Tin 2 Plus, not the Tin T2 Pro. The original Tin T2 is still one of my favorite IEMs since I first took a listen to them. It's one of those budget IEMs that actually can't trade blows with the Huzzy Sound Hard Mirror in terms of technical performance. It's immensely detailed. It's very fast. The soundstage is very wide, although its imaging is not very good. It's quite diffuse in its imaging. The detail, the speed, and the tightness of the sound is just amazing here. It's double dynamic driver, so you don't have that weird BA-ish timbre. even being with them being dual drivers. So yeah, this is very good. This is one of my favorites too. I actually prefer these two over something like the Starfields or the IT00 or even the KXXS, to be honest. Although maybe the KXXS is also very good, but the Starfield and the Aria exist, so yeah. I really like these too. But I can't really say the same with the Tin T3. By the way, I also have the Tin T2 Evo and the Triple Win Melee, the BGGAR collaboration IEM. Actually, I have bought those too, and they are currently sending them to us. So yeah, be sure to look for that review in the near future. The Tin T3 is actually my first Tin Hi-Fi. It's not my first Hi-Fi IEM. It's not my first IEM, but it's an interesting take, considering what I had before is this. Actually, let's put it here and talk about these two together. This is the KZ-ZS10 Pro. I used to think this is very good, but then I listened to the Tin T3 and the coherency here, although it's bad considering the amount of IEM that I've listened to now with much better coherency, it's not bad actually. It's better than the ZS10 Pro. It's not bad considering the only comparison I had was the ZS10 Pro, because this is horrible in terms of coherency. The bass is bloated and boomy. The highs are sharp and everything. The old KZ, not the old KZ, but the KZ type sound signature. And this, the Tin T3, it's a bit sharper. It's less neutral sounding. It's a Tin T2, but you make them V-shaped and grainier, and you have that B8 ham. I think this use a single bounce armature for the treble region, and this is a simply less enjoyable version of the Tin T2. A lot of Tin Hi-Fi IEMs are just the less enjoyable version of the Tin T2s. I had the Tin T2 Plus here, but it's actually Jason's unit, but I don't think I like those a lot. Like, they have excellent tonal balance, but I think the Starfields still have better tonal balance than the Tin T2 Plus, and the technical performance is just not on par with the Tin T2s. I think they are less resolving. They have less wide soundstage, a bit congested sounding in my opinion. I don't really like it. You can actually watch my review of them, my specific review of them. I had it in the channel, so yeah. With the Showa tapes, it's one of my first more pricey IEMs that I bought. It's at the I think it's at the time where I still have no idea what IEM should sound like, what good IEM should sound like. I have still no actual perception of what sounds good in terms of both tonal balance and technical performance. I actually bought these. It has been quite some time since I bought the Showa tapes. However, listening to them now, I can still appreciate how smooth actually smooth their treble is. It has very pleasant, in my opinion, treble performance. What I don't like here is actually the bass performance. It's quite boomy and bloated and incoherent. It's the one of the most incoherent sounding IEM, yet it is actually still quite detailed, in my opinion. So I sometimes listen to these just out of curiosity. I would want to remember what these sound like, but I can look past through those two. But what I really can't look past through is how the mid-range is represented here. It's shouty. It's, yeah, just shouty. You know, it's just simply shouty. I don't really like how the mid-range is represented here. I think it's just too much in the peanut gain. It's not at the SSR level of shout. The SSR is both shouty and bright at the same time. This is V-shape sound here. But though it's not as bright as the SSR. And those things dare to say themselves as a reference. So yeah, I had the SSR and the SSPs, but I sold the SSPs and the SSRs actually adjacent. So yeah, it's not here. This is the Blonde Mini. I had recently done a review of these. I think I'm going to sell these in the near future. I don't think I'll keep this for a long time. However, I don't think anyone would actually want these. Maybe I'll do a giveaway of the Blonde Minis in the future. So, but the difficulty of having giveaways for the Blonde Minis is I'm in Indonesia and I'm in Indonesia, and the only people that I can send the blonde mini is probably someone living in Indonesia. So yeah, I guess I can't really do international giveaways because it's not that easy, especially at the current climate of the C virus thing. And yeah, so this is actually a more interesting IEM that I have. It's the Audio Technica E40s. Audio Technicas, they have somewhat of an understanding of how to make headphones, but at the same time they don't. I had experience with quite a few Audio Technica headphones. I have a lot of them actually. I have the M40Xs, I have the R70X, I have the AD500X, and I have the A900. And I've tried quite a few of their flagship lineups like the ADX5000s, and most of them don't sound correct in their tonal balance, but they somehow manage to produce somewhat of a neutralish sound. Although they all sound weird, they don't sound right. However, mostly neutral. It's difficult to actually comprehend the sound of the Audio Technica headphones, except for one of them, which is the R70X, and that is immensely well tuned in my opinion. Albeit a bit warmer than what I consider neutral, it's still a very solid headphone. The E40 is one of the more normally tuned Audio Technica IEMs that I've tried. I've never tried a lot of them. I haven't tried the flagship EX1, I think it's called the EX1, or the LS200 something. I've never tried those. I only tried the E40s and the more budget Audio Technica IEMs. These sound just like the headphone. It's neutrally weird. It's weird, but it doesn't sound far off what neutral is, but it has that weird peaks and dips, and though it is actually bass elevated, but it's more of a neutral with bass boost. However, the neutral part seems just not right. it's you have that type of dips in the treble region, but you also have some peaks there, and it just sound weird, but it doesn't sound bad. It doesn't sound badly V-shaped, or it doesn't sound badly honky or anything. It sounds not right, but it sounds good. The bass region is quite fast, quite elevated. It's quite actually pretty. It's quite what do you call it? Satisfactory. No. Satisfying. Yeah, that's the word. Satisfying. However, it sounds quite one-notey and not very resolving. It's quite satisfying in its punch, and overall extension is okay too. However, it's not the most resolving in terms of actual microdynamics. And this is actually not my IEM. This is more of an our IEM. It's the Chimera BD005 Pro that we've put out a review for them. You have my opinions there. It's sent to us by Hi-Fi Girl. Thank you so much, Hi-Fi Girl, for sending these to us. However, we only use these probably for comparisons, or just putting up in a box somewhere, because it's not a very popular IEM. Albeit it's quite a solid IEM in my opinion. It's not as good as probably the Hudson Hardware or the Tin T2s. It's solid, although it's not very good. Yeah. Although with this, I think I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent and talk a bit about the Starfields and the IT00 before we get to the ones below here. I really like those two IEMs, and I regret selling them, and I think I'm going to buy them. I actually prefer the Starfield over the Arias, because Starfield, I think it's a bit more resolving. It's not as grainy sounding as the Arias, and I just like the color. The tonal balance is immensely good. The Pina gain there is probably the closest of the exact Pina gain that I would want in an IEM. So things like the Blessing 2s quite sound a bit too much in its Pina gain. It's just a bit, and the E1000 before is just a bit less than I would prefer. I think the Starfield is one of the closest to what I consider neutral in my opinion. It's Pina gain. So I'm actually still looking to buy one of those. The IT00, I don't think I'm going to buy those again, because I think I'll just buy the IT01X instead. So, and I actually did a very extensive review of the IT00s, and I think you should check that out. I apologize to the Indonesian viewers out there. I can't post the Indonesian version because I don't have the IT00 again anymore. And yeah, I've also sold my VA Audio Legacy 3s. The reason is, although I really like the Legacy 3s, I just bought the Legacy 4s, which is going to be in the next episode, where you talk about above $150. This is a better Legacy 4, so a Legacy 3s in my opinion overall. Although the Legacy 3 has that punchiness, has that extra dynamic in its bass. It's a very punchy IEM in my opinion. it's very pleasant at that perspective, at that region. However, in my opinion, treble is a bit too dark for me. It's good. It's good. Not say that they're bad. They're perfectly neutral with bass boost, in my opinion. Though I now would prefer a bit more energy up there. So yeah, I sold those so I can buy a lot of other dumb shit that I don't really need. And this is the this is quite an obscure IEM. I should have put this at the 4th video. However, some of these IEMs are going to be at the 4th video. Especially the ZS10 Pros, obviously going to be there, because although it's crap, it's utter crap, I'm never going to sell this because it has a sentimental value for me. The In-Time Sora 2 is very, very technical indeed. Though it makes me wonder why I don't recommend these too much. Although the detail here, the speed, is just, in my opinion, is very good here. Spatial presentation is not very good, although, but I think I should actually recommend these a lot. It's a more difficult IEM to find, especially in a non-Asian market. It's one of those rare IEMs, although I do have a little bit of dislikes for these IEMs, mainly in terms of their tuning. I don't think it's the most enjoyable type of tuning. I think it's a bit more analytical, though ear tip swapping would mostly fix that. However, you do still might experience somewhat of a treble peak or elevation that kind of ruins the tonal balance, although not that much. It has quite a, I think it's a VST driver technology here. I have no idea. I forgot the name, but it's an interesting IEM in my opinion. One of the more technical at this table. I should listen to this a bit more. Yeah, I don't think this is common enough for me to really recommend these. Although if you can find one, I think it's a very good buy. I would buy one. Yeah, I would recommend buying one. If you have the expenses on buying an IEM you possibly might not like, well, you might want to buy and try one of these. You can always sell them again, especially if you buy them secondhand. Now these two are the Final Audio E2000 and E3000. The E3000 is actually my first Final Audio IEMs. I bought the E3000 before I bought the E2000, before I bought the E1000, before I bought the E500. I actually bought it at that exact order. 32105. The E2000 is my favorite out of the four, definitely, because I think it's the most balanced in its tuning. Maybe not as neutral sounding as the E1K, but I definitely enjoy the E2000 a bit more than the E1K, because it has better spatial presentation. It's a bit wider, it has a bit more energy, and it's treble. If you remember the video from yesterday or a few days ago that I posted about the E1000, it sounded a bit dark to me. This has a bit more energy at its treble region, and yeah, it's a very solid IEM, and it's very comfortable too. And the bass is a bit bloated, it's a bit boomy, though I don't think it's the worst type of boomy bass. I think the E3000 is just a step to the wrong direction from the E2K. The E3000 is a bit darker, it's a bit muddy. I would consider the E3000 is a bit muddy in its presentation. Although if you actually stop listening to IEMs for quite some time and you start listening to them and have the E3K as your first IEM to listen, I don't think the mid-range is that bad, to be honest. I said they are a bit too dark, in my opinion. They are a bit too muddy, too thick. It's starting to become mud. It's not mud. It's a bit thick, too thick. In my opinion, it's quite. I don't know. It just sound heavy for some fucking reason. I have no idea how to explain it well. It's just quite heavy there, sounding. It's not the conventional muddy sounding IEM, but it's. Especially if you have these type of ear tips, which gives you a deeper fit, and also you have a more loose fitting, or I'm gonna say loose fitting ear tips. It sounds much better. I think it's a little bit more technical than the E3K, especially in terms of its instrument separation. Although I think the overall more balanced presentation of the E2K is superior, I guess, and the overall, I think it's a bit more detailed, the treble region too, but I think that's only because it's a bit more elevated here, and it's not elevated enough at the E3K. So yeah, I still would recommend the E2K over the E3K, but if you like a darker sound signature with a more bloated, boomy, muddy sound, I don't. It's not very muddy. It's not very bad. It's not terrible, but it's comparing the E3K to the E2K. You do have that type of impression of the E3K being muddy and bloated sounding and too thick. And yeah, that kind of stuff. And we have the excellent Etimotics Er2XR. To a lot of people, the Er2XR is hands down the best IEM at this table. But I would say I disagree, because I actually prefer these two over the Etimotics, and that sounds like blasphemy. Of course, that sounds like immense blasphemy, because the Etimotics is very, very good. It's very, 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 very good if you can get them at a good price. Definitely, they are very good. Although the weaknesses that they have does not resonate with me very well. For example, I don't really like the fitting. That's number one part. But I am the type of person that I don't really care about fitting, in my opinion. If you can get like immensely good sound quality by sacrificing a bit of fit, for example, these two and the EX1000, of course. Yeah, I would take the shitty fitting one. But the weakness of the Etimotics Er2XR is, I think it's a bit more towards the slightly grainier treble presentation. It's not as, I think, the treble is not as resolving as I would prefer them to be. The mid-range is very, very detailed. It's fucking detailed. However, the treble is a bit too rough. I don't think it's under detailed, but it's a bit rough in its presentation. I think it has that weird 9K peak that I don't really like. That slight 9K elevation that I don't like, and it makes the treble sound just grainy and unpleasant in my opinion. Although I am actually sensitive to that 9K peak, so yeah, I actually realized that after hearing the HE6, the non-modded version of the HE6, and it's just too fucking intense that I couldn't take it. But with the mods, the 9K peak is gone, and it's a fucking exquisite headphone. But enough with the HE6. The Etimotics, and the other weakness of the Etimotics that kind of becomes a, what do you call it, killer. Oh no, killer. It's someone that, it's something that makes me dislike them. I forgot the word, man. I can't find the fucking word for it. Yeah, the deal breaker, fuck, finally, is their soundstage. These have less than average soundstage, or maybe almost average soundstage. Yeah, I guess the Etimotics Er2X sounds very tight, and yeah, I guess that I really actually like soundstage. That's why a lot of my IEMs and headphones, one of the biggest criteria of me really liking them is immensely large soundstage. That's why I really like the HD800s and the Arias and the things, okay? And the Z1Rs and the Blessing 2s, they have very good, and the Tinty 2s, of course, very good amount of soundstage width and size and scale to them. This is a bit more intimate. That's why that's, I guess, one of the deal breakers. And of course, the 9K elevation sensitivity that I have really doesn't work with me very well. So yeah, I guess that's it for this part 2 of the video. I think it's a bit long. Yeah. See you next time. Godspeed.